In 2006, a series debuted that truly excited me, taking the tropes of comic book superheroes and translating them into a more casual, viewer-friendly, and grounded format. Heroes was a huge success for NBC. But then it all went down the toilet. Why? How did this happen? What made so many people all of a sudden say,
I hate Heroes?
First off, I don't want to make this come across as a bash fest. There was a lot of great things about Heroes. It had a pretty consistently great cast of actors, special effects that were pretty groundbreaking for the time, and there were some genuinely amazing episodes, especially in its first season.
So, what went wrong?
It wasn't anything simple. While the concept of taking superheroes and stripping them of the outlandish costumes and codenames had been done before, most notably in the film Unbreakable, but it's a solid series concept, and for the most part the first season was mostly good. It hasn't aged as well as some other shows, so some viewers may not understand, but for a brief period of time, this series was huge. Save the cheerleader, save the world became a household catchphrase.
Wait! Save the cheerleader, save the world!
Keep in mind that around the time this show was getting started, one of the highest rated shows on television was Lost. Lost featured a large cast of characters who wind up being connected to each other in surprising ways. An overarching mystery, a reoccurring motif that seems to appear at random times, and Heroes did all that too, just adding superpowers. And while Heroes would answer far more of its mysteries in a more direct fashion than Lost would, how it went about doing that is where things start to break down. Take, for example, the Eclipse, an image that was adopted as part of the logo for the series. It was originally intended as a way to subtly connect all of our main characters. New York, Texas, Nevada, Japan, united by the people witnessing the same event. Now, logically, that makes no sense because A, eclipses tend to be localized phenomenon and certainly not worldwide, and B, New York and Japan have a 13-hour time difference. But hey, it's an artistic choice, and one that I can't fault them for too much. It's a nice bit of symbolism, and that's it, right?
But fast forward to season 3.
Hey, wasn't there an eclipse that first day you flew?
Yeah. So?
Except that's not actually true.
Nathan first flew 6 months prior to the eclipse when Linderman's men attacked him in his car, and he instinctively flew out of his convertible, leaving his wife to be turned into an obvious mannequin and then become crippled. It was a pretty big deal for Nathan's character, not something he'd forget, but apparently the writers did. Or didn't care.
And that pervasive attitude largely influenced a lot of the series, especially in seasons 2 and 3. Heroes' biggest problem was a lack of a clear, focused vision.
This is likely because Tim Kring, who created the series, originally wanted it to be an anthology, something where every year he could shake up the cast. But the show's success made that difficult. It became hard to convince the network and studio executives to let you kill off or write out most of the cast when you're getting 14 million viewers to tune in each week.
But the first season told a pretty complete story. While some characters could have justifiably come back, others, most notably Peter, Nathan, and Siler, had a pretty complete story arc. But they were popular, so they had to keep bringing them back, and doing so in completely asinine ways.
So, to fulfill their desire to tell an anthology story, they introduced a whole bunch of new characters. Like a lot of characters. Too many characters. So many that there was no way to really service them and the main cast. So most of the time they just wound up feeling superfluous. Or you would wind up really liking characters who would stick around only long enough to be killed off. Heroes would present these characters as important and then take them away. You may not have realized it while watching, you probably felt that dissatisfaction.
And it's not like it helped the main cast much.
Like I said, the main cast wasn't designed to last past the first season, and they had to struggle to figure out what to do after that. Take Matt Parkman, who seemed dedicated towards just improving his relationship with his wife and his job as an LA police officer. Come season 2, he's left his pregnant wife to cohabitate in New York with Mohinder Suresh and raise Molly Walker, a young girl both men had helped save in the first season. In season 2, Matt had a major plot arc of him accepting his role as Molly's surrogate father, unlike his own father who had abandoned him as a child. So in season 3, one of the first things we hear is Molly having been sent away, never to return. And this wasn't just Parkman. Mohinder gets powers and turns into a spider monster and then just gets better. Sylar goes from being a serial killer to being powerless to a good guy to a bad guy again. Pretty much after every season or mid-season break, the show would just present a new status quo or reset back to the old status quo with very little consequence. Again, it's hard to stay invested when the writers don't seem invested in the situations that they've put their characters through. And this wasn't just for the characters, but the powers themselves. On one hand, I had to commend them. They didn't back down when it came to special effects. At a time when Smallville refused to allow Clark Kent to fly, they not only had a flying character, but one who could stop time, another who could heal from wounds, one who could walk through walls, shoot electricity, or run at super speed. They could have relied solely on more subtle powers that were more budget manageable, but they had a lot of cool flashy powers, and for the most part the effects were handled well. Some of it hasn't aged well, especially when you compare it to modern day shows like The Flash, but hey, it's been 9 years, I'll give it to them.
And this is the part where I say, but the writers had no clue how to handle these powers.
This is most obviously evident in Peter Petrelli, an empath who can mimic the powers of other people, and he could call upon those powers by feeling the emotions he associates with that person, which basically made him the most powerful character on the show, and therefore the biggest idiot. It meant that every new character he interacted with who had a power made Peter that much more powerful. But he seemed to forget that he had these powers. Like the time he had to get into a safe, forgetting that he had the ability to walk through solid objects, and instead had to use his telekinesis to open it. Why? Likely, it was because it was more convenient to the story. While this was fixed in the last half of Season 3 where his power was changed so that he could only keep one ability at a time, it made Peter look pretty foolish for a long time. Same thing with Hero. Hero's ability to control time and space means that he was extremely powerful. He could stop time, travel to the past, or to the future, or teleport away to anywhere on the planet. So they had to constantly come up with reasons so that he wouldn't dominate in any fight. So he suffers from doubt, which somehow affects his abilities, and he has to get a sword in order to get his confidence to get him to use his powers again? Or his mind is reverted to that of his 10-year-old self. Or his powers are stolen. Seriously, soap opera writers could watch this show and take notes on the weird plot threads. But there's one use of power on Heroes that was so mind-numbingly stupid it defies explanation. In Season 2, Noah Bennett is shot in the face. There is very little question that he's dead before he hits the ground. It went through his eye and most likely scrambled his brain like eggs. But given some of Claire's blood while post-mortem, he heals from the wound like she would. They gave Claire the indirect ability to bring the dead back to life, and no one saw how that might be a problem. No one thought it might rob all dramatic tension. The show did a great job of forgetting this ever happened, and I don't know if that's better or worse, to cop out or to leave the show broken.
Again, it comes down to a lack of vision. Any one of these problems by themselves is pretty minor. But add them all together, and it just shows that everyone was asleep at the wheel.
To be fair, the last half of Season 3 and the entirety of Season 4 seemed like they were righting their ship. While they both still had problems, nothing nearly as bad as the season and a half that preceded it. Unfortunately, by then, the damage had been done and ratings had plummeted. Which is a shame, as Season 4 did end on a great note, finally revealing powered people to the world at large. It would have allowed them to take Heroes into a new direction that felt natural. And yeah, that seems to be the basic setup of Heroes Reborn, which takes place years from the last season of Heroes and introduces a whole new group of heroes, now given the name of Evos, as well as bringing back some familiar faces.
At the time of this recording, I've not seen Heroes Reborn yet, so I really can't comment on how good or bad it is, but I really do hope they've learned their lesson. I want to like Heroes Reborn. Heroes is a show I really loved for a brief period there, and I think the potential still exists. Just have a better plan this time, guys. Seriously.
You might want to reconsider dying. Hell of a lot easier.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Heroes Reborn starts tonight, so why don't you leave me a comment and let me know what you think of the show, and maybe list your favorite new character, or your favorite old character if you don't want to watch it, because I am not going to force you. I'm a gentleman like that. Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.